A Stuart beam engine bought online. Part 3. Removing the beam to check the bearing fit. It is held insecurely with a very small Allen grub screw and moves about. The beam was fitted upside down and the hole for the grub screw was only threaded for a short distance in the hole, which is not the way I do it. Very soon the beam and bearing were separated. The removal of the crankshaft was more difficult, as the surface of it was burred by the fixings for the eccentric and the flywheel. I remachined and cleaned up the crankweb and crankshaft, not forgetting to drill centre holes. This clip shows a small Allen key in the hole in the beam. As mentioned in the previous episode, this is the underneath part of the beam, not the top. It was fitted upside down. The Allen grub screw holds the shaft in place just by fitting into a detent drilled on the shaft. The hole for the grub screw, strangely enough, wasn't threaded all the way down, so it was impossible to put sufficient pressure on the detent to hold it solid. You'll see how I fix it in the next episode. This is dismantling, not reassembly. A viewer said he'd found the listing on eBay for this beam engine, so I had a look, and this was the description. Stuart Turner beam engine runs well on air. Yes, of course it does. But my definition of this statement is very different to the one from the seller. Don't take my word for it, judge for yourself. Could this really be described as runs well on air? That's enough of that. It should sound a bit better when I've finished the rebuild. Time to remove the pulley, the flywheel, the valve gear eccentric and the crankweb from the crankshaft. Looking at this, you may think it was an easy job. All I had to do was remove the grub screw, as you see here in the flywheel, remove the two slot-headed grub screws from the eccentric sheave, and then the crankshaft will just push out. At this stage I thought I would remove the pedestal. A quick and easy job, I thought, but it turned out it wasn't a quick and easy job, because the threads of the bolts were rusty where they went into the captive nuts in the wooden base. Here, using a screwdriver, I'm removing the slot-headed grub screws from the eccentric sheave, which will be thrown in the bin as soon as I remove them from the eccentric sheave. I really do not like slot-headed grub screws, because they often break, leaving the grub screw in the hole. A quick word of warning: to extract the crankshaft, do not do it this way. And don't do it this way either. A hammer against a steel shaft is going to mark it. A better way of doing it is to use a piece of brass like this. And remember, it's a good idea when doing jobs like this to use a lot of hammer blows rather than big heavy ones. You don't want to damage anything at this stage. The engine is bad enough. When I removed the bolts holding the pedestal in place, it didn't move. I had to tap this with the hammer to loosen it. It was stuck to the base. I was surprised how difficult it was to extract this crankshaft from the flywheel and the eccentric. It's worth mentioning that the top caps of the main bearings are loose. I don't want to score those. Finally, all of the parts that fitted to the crankshaft were removed. And if you look at this image carefully, you can see little dots on the crankshaft. These are burrs caused by the grub screws. And that's the only thing that was stopping the crankshaft from sliding out. Time to move to the valve gear end of the engine. Here I'm removing the eccentric rod from the valve rocking arm. This bolt isn't right really, it's supposed to be a parallel shank bolt, but it should be okay. The first job I need to do is clean up the crankweb using some 400 grade wet-to-dry sandpaper. Then it's over to the lathe, and I've fitted the crankshaft in position in the chuck so I can drill centre holes at each end. This is a very simple job. The trick is not to drill the centre hole too deep. If you imagine these parts being on a full-size engine, you can imagine the size of the centre hole. The next job is to face across the front of the crankshaft because I want it to look nice. I reintroduce the centre drill very carefully to remove the burrs from the turning operation. As you can see, as usual, I use a file on the corners. I don't like anything to be sharp. Remember, a piece of metal cut at a perfect 90 degrees is razor sharp. This crankshaft was originally machined a little bit short, so here I'm extending the area where the crank web fits. And once again I use the file on the edge. You can use emery cloth, but to file's safer, your hands are further from the chuck. Now it's time to remachine the crank web. When I tried to flatten it off on the wet to dry sandpaper, it didn't flatten off, it wasn't very well machined. So with it clamped firmly in the chuck, running true, I remachine it very carefully, taking fine cuts until it is perfectly flat all the way along. You have to be careful doing a job like this. You could damage it very badly if you inadvertently took too deep a cut and the part worked loose in the chuck. I'm trying not to do that. It's now machined evenly at right angles to where the crankshaft fits. Talking about the crankshaft, I need to remove the burrs on it, and for this I'm using some wet to dry sandpaper and I'm just running it up and down the crankshaft as shown here. The ring around the crankshaft is where the flywheel at some time must have spun around on the crankshaft and marked it. The part is now looking a whole lot better. And that is it for this episode. Stay safe, stay healthy. Thanks for watching, and I hope you found it useful. Please take the time to visit my Mainsteam Models website and click on the section of the website that says Video Playlists. And by doing that, you can find other videos that you may like to watch. And by using the playlists, you can actually watch the videos back to back.